instructional video on what you're going to do when you get to S&G Labs on Sunday. The two things you're going to receive when you get there, I'm going to go over and how we kind of do the blowing the tank dry, hooking up the DI tank, and then you're going to have some pictures and some more instructions on the email that I'm sending you. So when you show up, you're going to have a tank that has a box similar to this on it. You're going to use a knife, so maybe I'll do this one first. You have this DI tank, and then you have a box of stuff that we're sending you. In that box is some paperwork that you're going to have, which is going to be a service report from before that shows our readings, date tag stickers, and a new service report you're going to fill out. Also, it's going to have a UPS sticker in there for putting on the tank that's going to return to us. We're going to have these hoses. We're going to have a bicycle pump for getting the water out of the tank. We're going to have 2 of these EP10 filters. You're going to have a bag that has some tools in it. And the tools are going to be a tubing cutter, Teflon tape, flashlight, a tool for removing the fill plug of the DI tank. Then you're also going to have 2 different filter wrenches, note a small one and a large one. There's going to be a pressure gauge I'm going to have you cut in on the system. There's also going to be channel locks for tightening things up, a knife for cutting the packing tape for resealing things back up, and a few assorted fittings. So I'm going to go through the operation of what's going to happen when you're actually doing the service. After you slice off the packing tape, you can remove the box from the tank that's there. That tank is going to have a, let's pause for just 1 second. Okay. All right, sorry, I wanted to just set the tank up so you're going to see it how you receive it. The tank you're going to get is going to have a fill plug here, excuse me, a 3/4 inch plug here, and it's going to have a fasten tight fitting like this. The tank that you're going to remove is going to have a QC light here, which is a big light body, and you're going to be removing this 3/4 inch plug and then inserting the QC light body into this area. This fitting is going to stay in place, and you're going to just basically attach it with a fasten tight tube in place to the tank that's currently there. And the first thing we're going to do is hydrate the tank. So in the hydration of the tank, you have to remove this fill plug, which has a unique square hole in it, which is what this tool is for, to remove the fill plug. And you're going to have to use the wrench initially, and as soon as you get it just a couple turns, it's going to be done tight. You're then going to be taking this tank over to the DI port on the system, which is identified in some of the photos that I'm emailing you. And there's a small valve that is going to have a little 1/4 inch tubing coming out of it. And it's right near valve number 23 on the system. It's a small Asahi lab cock, and it's going to have a small bit of 1/4 inch tubing coming out of it. You're going to remove that 1/4 inch tubing, set it off to the side, and attach this for the filling of the tank. So you'll screw this onto the bottom of that valve, you'll put this inside of this dry tank, which has DI resin but no water, and then you'll open that valve up. You're then going to be using a flashlight that we provide you to look inside, and you can see as the water fills up. Okay, now when you show up to the lab, this is something to take a moment. When you show up to the lab, the water is going to be, the city water is going to be off, and the pump is going to be unplugged, the pump that circulates the system. Walter is there, he's going to be your assistant, and you're going to say, hey Walter, can you go ahead and plug things in and get it circulating? Walter will know how to do that. We'll plug in the circulation pump, and then that'll make it possible for you to start filling this DI tank up. One of the things that I want you to do before you fill the DI tank is to go over to the RO and turn it off. We want the RO to be off, and there's a little control panel on it. You're going to turn that off. Also, the city water is going to be off to the RO, and you can keep that off. So to get back to the filling of the DI tank, you're going to open this valve, and once the pump is circulating, and you're going to have about 20 psi in your loop pressure, you're going to open this valve and start filling. It'll take about 4 minutes or so, but roughly you're just watching the water stream inside there until you get to the point where the water is up to the level of the threads. And you're going to take this out, turn off the valve, and you're going to insert the plug, put it hand tight, and then tighten it the rest of the way. Not too tight, Jim. It's all plastic and it has an O-ring. But you're going to basically just get it to the end of hand tight and then just snug, just to make it seat the O-ring. Okay, then the next operation is you're going to take this tank and swap it out for the makeup tank, which is there on the system. The pictures that I'm sending you, I think, are pretty self-explanatory. They'll show you how to do the swap. There will be no water flowing through that line. You have a pump circulating some water through the system, which you just use that pressure to fill the tank. But that's not part of this operation. This is only going to have water flowing through it when the RO is on. The city water is off, the RO is off. There'll be no water except just a little bit of residual in the lines. So you're going to basically be removing this QC light apparatus and a fasten type fitting, and then swapping this tank out for the one that's there. There's a bungee cord that's there. You're going to have to undo that, dance the tank out, put this one in place, make the connections identical to the tanks that's there, and you'll complete it at that. The next thing is there's a blue filter housing. Remember, the RO is still off and the city water's off. There's a blue filter housing, and you're going to be replacing the filter that's in it with one of these EP10s. Now you'll need to bleed a little bit of pressure off the line, and there's a couple ways to do that. I believe there's a red button on that filter housing, or you can just slightly loosen a little bit of the tubing just to make the pressure go down to zero. But you're going to release the pressure, undo the filter housing, dump out the old filter, replace this one in, cinch it up, you'll be good to go. Then we'll go through documentation at the end of the video about how you're going to put a date cat sticker on that. With the smaller filter wrench, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to go over here to the side of the RO. There's a small white filter. It's on the side of the RO. This will already be depressurized. You can use a smaller filter wrench and you can replace that EP10. Again, simple filter change, dump the old one out, try to keep some water in the housing so it doesn't start with a big air glug, and then tighten that back up. It'll be good. Next thing you're going to do is turn the city water on slowly, making sure that you don't have any leaks where the blue filter is that you just changed out. The only thing that's going to be under pressure when you first turn that city water on is going to be that blue filter housing that's mounted on the board on the wall. So that's where you want to direct your attention. Make sure you don't have any leaks. The RO is still in the off position, and it's not going to receive any pressure to that filter you just changed until you hit it on. So you're going to turn the RO on. The RO is almost invariably going to say tank full. It's not going to run. So now you have replaced the two filters, and you've also replaced the DI tank. We're going to have to go and drain water down to get the RO to kick on. There is a tank that looks very similar to this, which is the holding tank, and it's away from the system. You have two DI tanks, you have the RO, and then you have this taller black tank. There's a level on there, and there's actually a start and stop on the clear level tube. You're going to have to be dropping the level down to the RO starts. The way you do that is you still have this tube hooked up here that you fill the DI tank with, and that's going to be almost long enough to go to drain, but not quite. So you're going to take one of these tubes that you have, we provided you, you're going to slip it on to the end of this 1/4 inch tube by just pushing the 1/4 inch tube into the 3/8. It fits in there pretty tight, and it doesn't have to be under pressure. It's just going to go to drain. And then you're going to have a black drain pipe that's over here mounted on the wall. You're going to put that into the drain pipe, zip tie it if you need to, just jam it in there. And then you're going to open up that same valve that you used to hydrate the tank. That small Asahi valve is going to be opened up, and that's going to be dispensing water out of the system to bring the water level down until you hear the RO click on. Probably going to take another few minutes. You're probably going to have to dispense maybe up to 10 gallons to get the water level to drop. Once that happens, then you can stop dispensing the water, you can undo the tubing, you can actually put that small little short stubby 1/4 inch tubing back onto that valve, and you want to start looking at the DI tank that you just swapped out. Make sure that your connections are not leaking there, because now this is the first time that that tank that you just exchanged is getting water, and it's going to be traveling up to the storage tank. Then once you look at that, make sure there's no leaks. You're also going to look at your filter housing, make sure there's no leaks. And then you're going to be looking at the RO, the front of the RO, and getting your data for recording what your TDS is, which it shows right on the control panel, and your gauges as far as your pump pressure and your filter housing pressure, so you can start recording that. As far as the city water, I know you have a TDS meter with you. Right next to the filter housing, there's a small sample port there. You can actually get your incoming TDS off of that. And then I think we'll take a break so the video's not too long. We'll pause. Okay, all right. Okay, so part 3 now. So then you are going to take all those readings, Jim. You're going to record the RO data. Then this is going to be cut in a place that I'm going to identify in a picture on the email to you. Right before the capsule filter, there's going to be a place that you cut this in. How do you do this? You are going to unplug the pump that Walter plugged in when you first got there. You're going to shut off the water from the storage tank, and you're going to cut this in to a spot that I have on the picture that shows you where to cut this in. There's a thing that's a capsule filter, and you're going to be right before it. But I'm going to have it clearly marked. Then, once you've cut this in, and John Guest fittings I'm sure you're familiar with, you're going to make sure that you make it all the way home, almost a full ½ inch, so that you got that in there. That's going to be right before the capsule filter. You're going to open the valve back up from the storage tank. You're going to plug the pump back in, make sure the water's circulating correctly, and that is the service in itself. The next thing is you now have a very wet, heavy 99-pound DI tank with a whole bunch of water in it that needs to be blown dry. That's where the bike pump comes in. The way that we blow the tank dry is we put one of these fittings on it, and we put this hose into the inlet. That fitting is already there from when it was in service. This tube is going to go on the outlet. Just to give you an education on these, inlet, outlet. Inlet is always dead center. You're bringing the air into the inlet. This is going to be the drain tube. This is going to go into that black drain that you previously were draining the storage tank down. So there's a big 1.5 inch drain that snakes around. You're going to shove that in there. And then with that is the outlet. You're then going to take the bike pump. You're going to attach it to the Schrader valve, tire valve, that is going to feed air into the system, compress it down, and just start pumping. As you do, water is going to start coming out of this line until the point where you can start hearing that the tank is empty. It's going to be probably 4 or 5 minutes of pumping. As soon as the line starts kicking, showing that there's plugs of air coming through it, you're good. So you do that operation, then you remove the tubes, you remove the fittings, and you're just going to put plugs in here. We provided these in the box. They're going to have Teflon tape on them. And you should be set with that. Now the tank can be shipped to us. Once you take the box that was previously on the old tank, there will be a thing of cardboard that protected these fittings. You can put that back as well. You put the cardboard cover on it, you shipping tape it up, and then over this label, you're going to attach the label that we have in the envelope to send it back to us, and then we'll take care of all the arrangements from there. Walter can just know that that's going to be set off to the side to go out with UPS on Monday. That's it.